It was a still, hazy night in Los Angeles when Juliette Lewis seemed to vanish from Hollywood's glare. Once celebrated for her fearless energy and electrifying presence, she quietly slipped out of sight. Rumors began to swirl, whispers of exhaustion, heartbreak, addiction, even spiritual rebirth. But the truth was simpler and more profound. Juliette had stepped away to save herself. For years, she'd lived at full voltage, unpredictable, magnetic, and unstoppable, until that same wild spark nearly burned her out. Yet, in the end, it was that same fire, the one that had made her both terrifying and unforgettable, that would guide her toward healing. Juliette's story began right in the heart of Hollywood. Born on June 21, 1973 in Los Angeles, she grew up surrounded by creativity and chaos. Her father, Jeffrey Lewis, was a respected character actor, and her mother, Ness, an artist, a household filled with talent but marked by instability. When her parents divorced, Juliette was still a child, shuttling between two worlds, her father's steady wisdom and her mother's free-spirited emotionality. From a young age, she was captivated by the raw power of performance, drawn to storytelling not for the fame it promised, but for the truth it allowed her to explore. By 14, she had already appeared on television, hinting at a talent that couldn't be contained. Even then, Juliette wasn't your typical Hollywood prodigy. She was instinctive, spontaneous, and entirely unpredictable. Directors didn't quite know what to do with her, but they couldn't look away. Then came Cape Fear in 1991. At just 17, Juliette landed the role of Danielle Bowden, acting opposite Robert De Niro and Nick Nolte. Her performance was a revelation, tender yet defiant, unpolished yet magnetic. She earned an Academy Award nomination and overnight became one of Hollywood's brightest new stars. But fame didn't sit easily on her shoulders. What the public called intensity was simply who she was, emotional, open, and unfiltered. She chased roles that scared her, characters on the edge of sanity or heartbreak, because they reflected the depth of her own curiosity about life. Hollywood labeled her a wild child, and instead of running from it, Juliette leaned in. She dove into everything: music, late nights, spontaneous adventures, and whirlwind love affairs. To her, life was meant to be lived loud, even if it came with scars. By the early 90s, Juliette was everywhere, and not just for her films. Her relationship with co-star Brad Pitt during California turned them into one of Hollywood's most talked-about couples. Their chemistry was undeniable, their bond fiery but brief. Soon after, she gave one of her most haunting performances in Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers. As Mallory Knox, she was terrifying and vulnerable all at once, blurring the line between villain and victim. Critics were divided, but audiences couldn't look away. Juliette had become the embodiment of danger wrapped in vulnerability, a woman too real for Hollywood to fully contain. Yet, behind the camera, she was crumbling. The fame, the pressure, the sleepless nights, it all began to take its toll. She found herself spiraling, searching for meaning in all the noise. In her early 20s, she made a decision that surprised everyone. She walked away. Juliette checked herself into rehab, not just to fight addiction, but to find clarity. She wanted to strip away the noise of fame and rediscover the person behind the performances. It was a moment of reckoning, a choice to live rather than fade. When she returned, she was transformed. The chaos was gone, replaced with intention. Juliette found a new outlet for her intensity: music. She formed her band, Juliette and the Licks, and on stage, she unleashed every ounce of passion she once poured into film. Her performances were wild, cathartic, and unapologetically real. Critics weren't sure what to make of her, but her fans felt her sincerity in every lyric. Through music, she redefined what it meant to be free, not from Hollywood, but from expectation itself. Her personal life, like her art, remained unpredictable and deeply human. She never settled into the mold of Hollywood relationships. Though she loved fiercely, from her high-profile romance with Brad Pitt to her time with professional skateboarder Steve Barra, she remained fiercely independent. Love for Juliette was never about possession. It was about connection, even when it hurt. She once admitted that she was better at expressing herself through her art than in words, and that truth echoed in everything she created. As the 2000s unfolded, Juliette's evolution became undeniable. She began choosing roles that mirrored her growth: strong, complex women who defied expectation. From Whippet to August Osage County, she proved that her artistry had matured without losing its edge. She was no longer the reckless girl Hollywood once branded her as. She had become a woman grounded in purpose and self. She spoke openly about her past struggles, her spiritual awakening, and the importance of authenticity in a world built on illusion. In recent years, Juliette has embraced a kind of peace that feels both hard-earned and deeply deserved. She still acts, still sings, still creates, but with balance. She surrounds herself with animals, nature, and people who bring calm instead of chaos. She's learned that peace isn't about the absence of storms, but about learning to dance through them. The wild energy that once defined her hasn't disappeared, it's simply evolved. It's no longer destructive. It's deliberate, powerful, and full of life. Looking back at photos of her in the early 90s, those fearless eyes, the wild hair, that smirk that dared the world to understand her, you can almost see the storm that once raged inside her. Yet, the remarkable thing is how she survived it without losing the spark. That same fire still burns today, but now it glows rather than consumes. She's proof that transformation isn't about changing who you are, but returning to your truest self, the one buried beneath the noise. And so, the girl who once vanished from fame returned not as a tabloid story, but as a living example of strength and reinvention. Juliette Lewis remains one of Hollywood's most captivating enigmas. A woman who lived wildly, fell hard, and rose stronger than before. Her story is a reminder that survival isn't quiet or perfect. It's messy, brave, and beautifully human. If Juliette's story inspired you, her passion, her honesty, her fight to find peace, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Leave a comment with your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories of the icons who dared to live on their own terms.